Close Senate friends have passed as well, including brave Dan Inouye. My pal Fred Thompson, whose company was a delight, died 2 years ago. Lion of the Senate, Ted Kennedy, with whom I worked and fought and joked in some of the more memorable moments of my time in the Senate, succumbed in 2009 to the cancer that I now have. Ted and I shared the conviction that a fight not joined is a fight not enjoyed. We had some fierce ones in our time, fierce, worthwhile, and fun. I loved every minute of them. Other friends have left too, I'm tempted to say before their time, but that isn't the truth. What God and good luck provide, we must accept with gratitude. Our time is our time. It's up to us to make the most of it. Make it amount to more than the sum of our days. God knows my dear friend Chuck Larson, whom I had looked up to since we were boys, made the most of his. Leukemia killed him in 2014. He was laid to rest in the Naval Academy Cemetery on Hospital Point, a beautiful spot overlooking the Severn River near where our paths first crossed. I've been given more years than many and had enough narrow escapes along the way to make me appreciate them, not just in memory, but while I lived them. Many an old geezer like me reaches his last years wishing he had lived more in the moment, had savored his days as they happened. Not me, my friends, not me. I have loved my life, all of it. I've wasted more than a few days, I suppose, on pursuits that might not have proved as important as they seemed to me at the time. Some things didn't work out the way I hoped they would. I had difficult moments and a few disappointments, but by God, I enjoyed it. Every damn day of it. I have lived with a will. I served a purpose greater than my own pleasure or advantage, but I meant to enjoy the experience, and I did. I meant to be amazed and excited and encouraged and useful, and I was. All that is attributable to one thing more than any other. I've been restless all my life, even now as time grows precious. America and the voters of Arizona have let me exercise my restlessness in their service. I had the great good fortune to spend 60 years in the employ of our country, defending our country's security, advancing our country's ideals, supporting our country's indispensable contribution to the progress of humanity. It's not been perfect service, to be sure, and there were times when the country might have benefited from a little less of my help. But I've tried to deserve the privilege, and I've been repaid 1,000 times over with adventure and discoveries, with good company, and with the satisfaction of serving something more important than myself, of being a bit player in the story of America and the history we made. And I am so very grateful. I share that sentiment with another naval aviator, the good man and patriot we elected our 41st president, George Herbert Walker Bush. He paid tribute 26 years ago to those fellow patriots whose service to America was not repaid with a long life of achievement and adventure. We had assembled at the Arizona Memorial around 7 o'clock the morning of December 7, 1991. President and Mrs. Bush and their party arrived shortly after. Chuck opened the proceedings and introduced a Navy chaplain to give an invocation. At 7:55, 50 years to the minute since the attack on Pearl Harbor had commenced, the cruiser USS Chosin crossed in front of the memorial and sounded its horn as its officers and crew standing along its rails saluted. The minute of silence we observe ended when 4 F-15 fighters roared overhead and one pulled up and away in the missing man formation. A bugler sounded attention at 8 o'clock. The colors were raised and the national anthem sung. President and Mrs. Bush dropped flower wreaths into the well of the memorial. Secretary of Defense Dick Cheney introduced retired USN Captain Donald Ross, who had been a warrant officer on the USS Nevada, one of the 8 battleships stationed at Pearl Harbor when the Japanese attacked. He was a senior engineer on the ship and managed to get her underway in the firestorm, the only one of the battleships to do so.